Welcome into Seattle Seahawks today, and for the first time all season, following a Seahawks loss, as Seattle, well, they went into another wacky and wild game against the Arizona Cardinals. They come up short in overtime, 37-34, the first loss of the season for Seattle, and a pretty painful one. I really thought they had that game pretty much wrapped up, and then the defense kind of reared its ugly head. There were some bad Russell Wilson turnovers. We'll break down the reaction to that game, and we'll break down the rumors and news with some notable injury updates coming out of it. But Seattle is still in first place, at least for now, in the NFC West. But this is, I believe, the best division in football. We'll see what the Rams do on Monday night. The Cardinals are now just a half game back. The 49ers are getting back on track as well. This is not going to be an easy division to win if you are Seattle. But I want you guys to predict this for me. What do you think Seattle is going to do? I want you to get your votes in the comment section here. Type Y for yes or type N for no. Will the Seahawks win the NFC West? I'm going to speak some positive vibes out there. I still think they're going to. I had them at 13-3 entering the Sunday night game. Maybe they go more like 12-4, but I still think this is a great football team that's going to have success if, as we'll discuss later on, they can find some defensive help. But get your votes in. Y for yes, N for no. Let's talk injuries now for Seattle. Chris Carson, I think this is one of the bigger ones coming out of that Sunday night loss, suffered what Pete Carroll called a mid-foot sprain against the Cardinals. Now, the report out of Seattle is that the injury isn't expected to be serious. The MRI for Carson is coming on Monday. We will see what that says. I would expect that Carson will at least miss some time for the Seahawks, which is a noteworthy loss. Now, I think Carlos Hyde, as we'll discuss in a second, I thought he played great. Travis Homer had a knee contusion in that game as well, which led to more DJ Dallas, and now we know why he's not playing, because he's not very good in pass protection. I mean, he just absolutely whiffed on one of the blitzes Arizona brought. Carson this year has been really good, both in the run game and in the passing game. 4.9 yards per carry, that's impressive. On the bright side, though, for Seattle, Carlos Hyde, who they brought in free agency, brought him in on a cheap deal to be the backup, I thought he played really well against Arizona as well. Had that great touchdown run. In total, 15 carries, 68 yards. If you're averaging 4.5 yards per carry, probably means you're doing something right. So with the Chris Carson injury again, actually this is the second time he's been hurt this year, didn't miss time from the first one, rate your panic level for me. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you? Because you have Carlos Hyde, I'm going to put this at like a 1 or a 2 for me. I think it's short-term injury. Seattle will be fine, but of course get your votes in the comments section. The maybe more concerning injury, at least for this upcoming week, is one Shaquil Griffin. Left the game against Arizona with a concussion. That puts his status for Week 8 very much in doubt. Trey Flowers came in to replace Griffin. We'd seen plenty of Flowers this year because Quentin Dunbar was banged up too. And, well, Trey Flowers played exactly like Trey Flowers tends to play. It is a concussion which, historically speaking, in most cases, means maybe a 1-week absence and a player can return. A little bit less time in terms of pure hours for recovery for Griffin, but that is something that we will monitor throughout the week. So if you want to stay updated on Griffin's concussion and if he's going to play or not play in Week 8 for the Seahawks, I want you guys to subscribe. That way you don't miss out on a single video. We'll keep doing mailbags for you guys. News and rumors around the Seahawks. We'll keep you covered on your favorite team. We are almost at 10K subscribers. Let's get there sooner than later. Hit that big red button. All right, reaction now from that Cardinals loss. Russell Wilson, overall, he played well. You don't put up the raw numbers he did without having a good game. However, there were some very critical mistakes by Russell Wilson. 2 bad red zone interceptions, one of which ended up not mattering thanks to DK Metcalf being apparently the fastest human on earth. The offense overall, I want to emphasize, was still good enough to win the game, especially in the first half. But there wasn't an overall game consistency out of Wilson and Seattle. 27 points in the first half, 7 in the second. That's a bit of an issue there. Now, this might have been a different story if David Moore doesn't blatantly hold the defensive back on DK Metcalf's called back game-winning touchdown, but instead that's not what happened. And in the end, 3 TDs, 3 interceptions for Wilson. That's half his interceptions this season. He is still, as far as I'm concerned, the MVP favorite. And you're going to have to deal with this in the NFL. There are going to be games where your quarterback isn't as good as he normally is. That's just how football works overall. So I'm not panicking around Russ. I still think he's having an MVP caliber season. He just needed a little bit more from him with the way the defense is playing this year. In fact, I bet on Russell Wilson to win MVP earlier this year, and I'm feeling great about that bet. You can bet on, or if you want to be weird, against Seattle with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code you see on your screen. It's Seahawks 125. That will get you a 125% deposit bonus. So you put down $100, easy math. You'll have an extra 125 to bet with, just in case you get a few bets wrong. Now, I didn't want to blame the offense too much here, because the defense is the real problem for this Seahawks team, or at least in as much as there is a problem for a 5-1 football team. But this defense is not very good. Now, they're getting turnovers, but they have to get better. Here are their stats against the Cardinals. They allowed 37 points, 519 total yards, 360 passing yards, 159 yards on the ground, 2 takeaways. It's not good enough. I believe if Seattle wants to win, they have to trade for a player. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I have an idea we'll get to. But who should the Seahawks trade for? If you're Seattle, I think you have to explore the defensive line. And specifically, I think edge rusher. Because you played a very mobile quarterback, a good quarterback. You blitzed 5% of the time, which is barely anything in today's NFL. And you didn't get a single quarterback hit. Because you brought 4. And the reality is, this front 4, especially with no Jamal Adams, who we'll get to, isn't good enough to pressure the quarterback. L.J. Collier, Benson Mayowa, Demontre Moore, Alton Robinson, maybe get Rasheem Green and Darrell Taylor back. It's just not enough. So if I'm Seattle, I'm looking at a bunch of different edge rusher options out there. And one that continues to stand out to me is Carlos Dunlap. I firmly believe if you're Seattle, you should go all in right now. You've invested a lot in that defense via the Jamal Adams trade. You need more help still. And Carlos Dunlap is very clearly unhappy right now in Cincinnati. Played 12 snaps, that's it, against the Cleveland Browns, and has been pretty darn vocal about his desire to force away out of Cincinnati. He leaked the defensive line rotation on Instagram, put his house up for sale publicly on Twitter. It's very clear Dunlap doesn't want to be there anymore, which is also hurting his trade value. So why not explore it if you're Seattle, or Ryan Kerrigan, or insert literally any pass rusher here? They need more help. Because I believe this can be a Super Bowl contender if for the Seattle Seahawks, but they got to get more defensive help. Look, you're 5-1 right now. You're a good football team. You're not quite, with the way the defense is playing, the favorite to win the Super Bowl. You still might be the NFC favorite, but you need a little bit of extra help, because if you can't get pass rush against the Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, it's not going to work well. So predict then what you think the Seahawks record will be this season. I think double-digit wins. You are easily on pace for that. But getting another pass rusher, that might get you the coveted number 1 seed and a bye in this year's playoffs. I do want to also shout out Tyler Lockett, because he is back, baby. Torched the Cardinals in Week 7. He had a couple quiet games before that. These numbers, I mean, it's tough to do this even in video games, man. 20 targets, 15 catches, 200 yards, reeled in 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were out of this world. It was an incredible performance by Tyler Lockett. Now remember, Seattle was on bye in Week 6. And in Weeks 4 and 5, Lockett had very much faded away. In 1 week, Tyler Lockett doubled his output from Weeks 4 and 5 combined. And I know it's kind of an outlier game there. Hopefully you played Tyler Lockett in fantasy, unlike my opponent, because he's silly. But the game we saw from Lockett, that's what you won, or at least closer to that than it was in Weeks 4 and 5 combined. Seattle's lucky. They have 2 dynamic options at wide receiver, and there's been a little bit of trouble at times getting both of them involved in the same game. But who do you think is the better wide receiver? I will mention that, to be honest, there's no wrong answer here. But get your votes in. It's DK for DK Metcalf, or TL for Tyler Lockett. Jamal Adams remained out again, and at this point, I don't really know what's going on. Seattle did not think that Adams was going to miss this much time. He has been out Week 4, Week 5, Week 6, and Week 7. That's simple math right there. If they thought Adams was going to miss that much time, they would have put him on IR. That's not what they did. Because remember, 3-week window to return, it's different this year. And this Seahawks defense is clearly missing him. And maybe in a way you didn't anticipate, because you know what part of the defense misses him the most? It's the pass rush. Look, Ryan Neal's been fine. The secondary, the corners are being iffy, but there's no consistent pass rush except when Jamal Adams blitzes. The Seahawks miss him badly in that area. Ryan Neal's been a nice little find for Seattle. I like that. Demarius Randall got the call up to the active roster. But if you're Seattle, you have to get Jamal Adams back sooner or later. They've been cautious. They've taken it slow with him. I want to say again for like the third straight week, he'll be back this week. We'll keep you covered because I don't know when Adams is going to return. Hopefully it's soon. That defense, they need him out there because they are struggling in the pass coverage game without him on the field.